Hello, and welcome to 5 Minutes Postgres. My name is Lucas, and today we're going to talk about a change in Postgres 16 that removes the alias requirement for subqueries in from. This may seem like a very obscure problem, but it's actually a very common issue for people that either migrate to Postgres or who are new to Postgres and run into this error. Today, you have this error: subquery in from must have an alias. And this happens when you have your select statement, you have a from clause, and then at the end of the from clause, you forget to specify a name for subselect in the from clause. The solution today is to add a name. You have your from clause and you say this subselect is named something something table. This way, today you can resolve this error. A lot of people have run into this. This Stack Overflow question has been viewed 217,000 times. And as people note here on this about 10-year-old Stack Overflow post, this is still an issue of Postgres 11, and it's actually still a problem with Postgres 15. Other people in the Postgres community have wondered why this is the case. Back in 2017, Bernd Helmle opened up a mailing list thread on the Postgres hackers mailing list. He brought this up because in the context of migration projects from Oracle to Postgres, he's repeatedly faced with people asking, why is this way? And typically the Postgres community has said, this is because the SQL standard requires it. If you look at the Postgres source code, you can actually see that this is also the explanation in the parser. It says the SQL spec does not permit a subselect without an alias clause, so Postgres doesn't either. And then it also says, see if anyone complains. As you can see here, and as you can see in the Stack Overflow post, there have actually been a good amount of complaints, but they haven't really made it to the Postgres core community. What Bernd did here is he brought this concern to the community. Now, back in 2017, this mailing list thread went on and on. There was a patch, but there were some concerns around how to name the alias and such. It actually ended back in 2017. It didn't really make progress there. Somebody else also noted that this is not just an issue of Oracle, this is also an issue of SQLite. SQLite is also more lenient, even though the SQL standard requires this alias. About 4 weeks ago, Dean Rashid picked up this topic again for Postgres 16. He referenced this earlier thread, and he developed a new patch that didn't have the same problems as the old patch. The good thing is that ultimately, after some discussion, this patch actually got merged into Postgres 16. Again, to be clear, this is for 16, not for 15. We'll have to wait a little while to get this improvement here, but this is going to make things a lot easier for newcomers. I'm excited by this change, and I wanted to try this out locally. First of all, here's a Postgres 14 instance. If you had a Postgres 15 beta instance, it would behave the same way. I can create a table, and then I'll try to select something from that table for a subselect. You can see here, this is the error that you get today in Postgres, where it says subquery in from must have an alias, and it hints you as how to fix it. For example, here, if it follows this hint, then it works. Now, I also built Postgres 16. Don't do this at home. Don't use this for production. This is just for test purposes. I built the latest version of the main branch here locally, and you can see that it says 16 devil. I'll do the exact same steps. I'll do create table, and then I'll do a subselect. And you can see here, this works. I can still specify an alias if I want to, but it's not required. And I think this will avoid a lot of errors. There wasn't really a good reason for this error besides standards compliance. This shows that sometimes it's good to go beyond the standard and do what other systems have also realized to make it more user-friendly. Very excited about Postgres 16. We'll have to wait a little bit over a year to get this changed, and it may still change because it's early in the development cycle, but hopefully we'll see this in new Postgres versions. Thank you so much for listening. This was 5 Minutes of Postgres. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to hear about next week's episode, and talk to you next week.